Hello! Welcome to log number 4, part 2 of making a book. Previously, I had talked about the planning and the sketching of the book. Today, we are going to talk about color study, transferring the image, and illustrating. So, the first thing you need to do is to transfer your thumbnail or your sketch onto the final paper that you're going to be working on. You do this so you don't have to redraw the whole thing, and also it preserves some of the natural energy of the thumbnail. I do this by scanning it onto the computer, arranging it to the proper size, and printing it out. And that's what you will see in this video here. The paper with the purple image is the enlarged printout of my original drawing. So next I use a light box to trace the image onto the final paper that I'm going to be working on. The trick to this is to draw lightly and use a lead that is easily erasable. The lines that I am making now are just guidelines, and I want to be able to remove them easily. So once the tracing is done, I'm going over the drawing with Durant Pro Color Burnt Umber 55. And I'm trying Pro Color because the lead is supposed to be harder than other colored pencil leads. And I want a harder lead because I'm going for drawing and not shading. So I'm hoping the point is going to last a little longer with this type of pencil. And I think it does. One little issue I was running into was that my paper is cold press and has a pretty big texture on the surface. And because of that texture, my pencil lead gets pushed around sometimes, and I'm not always going where I want to go. If I needed a more detailed drawing or a more precise drawing, this would be a problem, but for now, I think it's okay. Before I go into the final illustration, I'm going to take a minute here to tell you about the color study. So I didn't record myself doing the color study because I need to think, and I just can't think very good with the camera on. But this is the color study I did. Normally, if I were going to do this for a client, I would do several different versions with different colored options. But because it's just me and I think I know what I want, I was satisfied with just this one color study. And a color study is basically a rough draft with the colors. And you do this so you do not spend all your time in experimenting on the final illustration only to decide you don't like it. And now finally, it's time to paint. Watercolor is still new to me, and I'm still experimenting. One thing I did was where I wanted the light source to hit the characters is I made it orange because I wanted that to be a little more warmer. I don't know if that was a good idea or bad idea. And then the next thing I do is designate where the darkest darks are going to be, and I build up from there. While I am adding in the color, I'm thinking about things in regards to dark shapes and light shapes. If you want something to pop out, then it needs to be a different value than the objects around it. So for the troll's hand in front of their shirt, for example, if I want that to pop out, the value of that hand has to be different than the value of the troll's shirt. So I'm making the value of the hand light and the troll's shirt dark. So you color with color, but it is the value of the color that's going to help you communicate the image even more clearly. And a way to test this is that once the image is done, if you turn it into a grayscale image, it should still be easily readable. I'll demonstrate this at the end of the video. When the painting is done, I'll bring it into Photoshop and turn it into a grayscale image. With this, we should be able to look, and if I had done it correctly, the shapes should be able to pop and be distinct from each other. If my values are too similar, then it's all going to look like a very similar tone, and therefore the communication of the image will be weaker. Going back for a moment to the subject of light boxes, but I had never bought one before. They were always sort of big and expensive. Instead, I would use the window. The sun would have to be up, but I could use the window to trace, or I could use a glass coffee table and put a lamp under it. The one you see me using in the video here, my friend bought me for my birthday. And it was not until that she did that I had realized that now light boxes were small and affordable. Now I am living in the modern era. How about an intermission with some fun facts while the painting runs in the background? Well, you know about roly-polies, also known as pill bugs, and I'm sure you know that they are not a bug at all. They are a crustacean. Well, did you know the mom has a pouch on the underside of her belly where she can hold up to 50 eggs? But even after the eggs hatch, the baby pill bugs remain on the underside of her belly for up to 2 months until they're ready to go out on their own. This is one of my favorite crustacean facts. I can't imagine such a little tiny pill bug carrying 50 smaller pill bugs on the underside of them for 2 months. When the babies do hatch or venture out on their own, they're small and white, and they go through 5 stages of molting before they reach adulthood. Pill bugs are known for eating decomposing plants, but they also consume heavy metals. This is very beneficial for the ecosystem, for they can clean up contaminated dirts by eating zinc, copper, cadmium, arsenic, and lead. Thanks for listening to my favorite crustacean fact. So, now if we turn our attention back to the video, I'm going over the painting with that color pencil. I'm adding in texture and shadow. I also do this again at the very end of the painting after it has dried for a while. I don't have video of this, but it is pictured at the end of the video, and if you're interested, it is also on my blog. And I'll leave a link to my blog and website in the comments below. There, you can take more time looking at the images or looking up materials. Looking at the painting again, doing the man was pretty straightforward. What I did like about him is how the stripes in his hat and his scarf turned out. The natural textures and wiggliness of the watercolor I think work very well, and I would like to lean into that a little more. One thing that I did on this painting that I am not crazy about is that I colored it in too thoroughly. I wish I had left more white space in the lines. To try to remedy this, I reactivated the paint that I wanted to remove with water and dabbed it with paper towel. I then used gouache that I mixed with a little watercolor and tried to add in more lighter highlights. So that is my illustration, and now let's look at the grayscale. So looking at the gray image compared to the final color together, you can see that the troll's hand and her forearm against her dark body pops really well. It's very readable. You can see that her face compared to the white background is very readable. I like that the man's head is between his dark hat and his dark scarf, so that helps that pop. What might be too similar might be his hair and his face. I'll have to think about that. The other thing that might be too similar is the troll's foot in the foreground against the man's shoulder. It's not bad, but it might be just a little too close. So maybe you can see that if you strip the color away from the image, you are still left with the values, and the values can be very important with communicating images. Maybe you can understand that if the troll's arm and hand were a very similar tone to her body, that it would be harder to see what is actually going on. So that is the first illustration, and I think I have like 18 more to do. So the next few videos will be more painting videos, and there's always something different to talk about with painting, and there's always more problems to come up that I'm sure we'll have to discuss. So stay tuned, and even though it's a lot of painting, I'll make each of them unique and different, so it's not just the same information about painting over and over again. And if you have any questions or topics you would like me to cover, please comment below, and I'd be happy to put them on my list. I hope this has been helpful, and thank you for watching. See you next time.